Quest Warlock is a new archetype from the newest expansion, the Ongoro expansion. The idea behind the deck is you're going to be playing down the quest. You don't need to play down the quest until you're planning on first using it, so you'll notice a few times, possibly in this gameplay, but during my time that I did this, that I didn't play the quest down straight away, just simply because if you have a better one drop or something to do on that turn, it's better to apply pressure rather than just playing down the quest for it. The cards that you're looking to mulligan for in this deck is you're looking, obviously keeping your quest, you're looking to keep the Solarium, you're looking to keep the Dark Peddler, you're also looking to keep your one drops such as, Flame Imp, Glacial Shard, those sorts of cards. The Spelunker is quite useful for this deck because it allows you to reduce down the cost of your temporary cards, so you're able to play down a few more each time. And the other thing that you also can do with this deck is you can, once you get the portal open, or the portal open, it means that you'll be able to then get a bunch of very powerful minions coming out of it. So, and you'll notice just then that I did do the turn 3 play. I played down the quest, and then I played down my Xavius, which had been a temporary copy because of the Cursed Catacombs. And then there's also other cards in your deck as well that you can use for it. So the 3-drop just there that's in my hand at the moment, it allows you to get another temporary copy of a spell. So you want to make sure that you're able to use those spells at that particular time to obviously get the extra value coming from it too. This deck I've got Curator in it, just because I didn't have the 4-drop. Like, I'd probably prefer the new 4-drop rather than the Curator. But the Curator does allow you to obviously get some extra cards out of your deck. The Tyrant Terror that I just drew into is another card that you'll possibly be looking for in your mulligan, because it does apply a bit of pressure towards your opponent by being a 4/3. And if they do end up clearing it on the turn 4, you do get an extra 2 temporary cards being played out. You'll notice that I did just get my 3-drop out, and now I've got it to use the temporary spell rather than the other spell that's there. And I do just end up freezing the Curator, because the idea behind the deck is you're going to be quite stally until you do get the portal online, because of the fact that it does allow you to get so much value and tempo being applied with the charge minion and also the reborn one. The rush one's okay, like it helps somewhat with aggro matches, but the reborn and the charge ones are definitely the stronger of the 2 cards. I end up just playing down the Platosaur here just because it will be able to be used, and then I play down the card that it would have discarded just to make sure that I'm getting that extra value coming from it as well. I do end up playing down the 2 Murlocs here and just trading into their Curator. The Murlocs with the rocks allow you to apply a little bit of pressure towards your opponent if you need to, but they're also quite useful in terms of making sure that you can clear opponents' possible threats on your opponent's board as well. I didn't particularly want them to keep the Curator on the board, so I did just trade into it for that particular time. I drew into another of my minions, and this one allows you to get temporary freeze spells. So luckily for me, I did get 2 of the 2 mana spells, and I can obviously use them this turn as well. So I used the Frost Runes one just first to see what I end up getting, and the Death Chill is in general quite a strong card because it applies quite a bit of pressure towards what your opponent has. I am just considering the Death Chiller. Well, I wasn't really certain on it because of the fact that I don't have too many more spells in my deck, which is the reason why I didn't just choose it straight away. And then I do end up just playing down the Freezing Trap as well, because I don't particularly mind if either of these 2 minions get pushed back into the opponent's hand. They end up trying to go face, and then obviously the Freezing Trap stops them. I am starting to get closer towards my temporary threshold for my cards, so I am getting to the point where it is going to be quite good for me. I did draw into the Cursed Catacombs here as well, so I play down the Death Chiller here just to then be able to get it to do the trading into stuff. And I end up just grabbing the Cursed Catacombs here just to be able to then grab the the demon because I wanted to be able to play it straight away. Because I know that I need to clear most of the minions on my opponent's board and use as many spells as I can. I do end up playing down the Frost minion here as well. And I draw into Frostbolt and Frost Strike, so it is in general going to be able to get me to trade relatively decent into them. And it will clear a lot of their minions that they have there. And then it obviously gets me the portal as well. I did draw into Horn of Winter, so if I had played it slightly differently, I would have been able to get the maximum value coming from it. And I end up here just playing the Frostbolt to get rid of the 2-1. Just because I know that this deck, it has the 5-drop that allows you to activate all your death rattles from the elementals, and you don't really want them to be able to deal a ton to you. So this turn I end up playing down the quest, obviously, because it is such a powerful card. And then I am going to be throwing in, I think it's the 9-drop I end up throwing into the pool here. Or it could be something that's not really very useful, end up being Plate Sorcerer. And in general, like, it allows you to be able to trade quite well into what your opponent has. I do end up trading into the 8-drop, hoping that it does, because I end up putting it as a 50-50 chance, and it did end up hitting well for me, so I was able to clear that elemental that they had. And then I do just play down my temporary spot. There isn't, like, I chose to use that just because I do have the Horn of Winter in my hand, and it could give a little bit more pressure onto my opponent here. It would have been better in that sort of regard to play down the Amalgam first, so I didn't waste that mana, but now I do end up having to play the second Studies. I end up choosing the Dark Gift minion just because of the fact that it allows me to get a little bit more extra value if I need to, and it means that I'll be able to get some more minions onto the board if I need to as well. They end up getting their Death Rattles procced as well, which is a little bit tricky for me to be dealing with, since they do have such a wide board as well now. But the thing that is important here is the fact that since I have the portal open, I am sitting in such a strong position, because if I end up getting the reborn minions and things like that, it does obviously allow me to get a lot of pressure towards them. They end up getting a relatively weak 7-drop as well, which is good for me, so I end up being able to just trade simply into it. And I get the rush and the charge minion, so I'm able to clear that 7-drop as well. I do play down my 7/9 as well onto the field. It gets me extra health back as well. And I am just opting and deciding how best I'm going to trade into these minions as well. I do end up trading with their board because at this point in time now it's more so just about making sure I can grind out what my opponent has. And I play down my Dirty Rat. It would have been better playing down the Dirty Rat before doing the trading, just in case they had something that's a lot more important that ends up getting onto the field. They end up using their Imbue to be able to give another minion, evolve another minion, but it obviously doesn't really mean too much because of the fact that it ends up being quite a bad minion. They get their Blob of Tar down onto the board as well, so they are able to clear quite a lot of the stuff that I have here too. This turn I end up just playing down the Freeze minion to see what I end up getting, because I'm looking for things like Blizzard, and ultimately I end up getting into the Blizzard as well, so it means that I can end up trading quite well into what they have. The better play in this situation would have been playing the putting the temporary spell into it rather than the Dark Peddler, so I did make a little bit of mistake there. And I end up just going face with my cards that are here. It doesn't really mean too much for them, the fact that that is, but because it is towards the end of the game, but it obviously would have been better doing the temporary spell rather than the Dark Peddler, so I obviously get extra value coming from it. They end up playing down their Storm Brewer, but at this point in time with the board that I have, and they only have one card in their hand, I am in such a strong position, and they end up just ending their turn with nothing happening. I play down I use the portal to get the Flame Imp down, and I just get rid of it, obviously. and then they end up just conceding because ultimately it was a pretty difficult situation for them to be. Which then leads me into the second game. So in between this game, I did end up losing a second game, which I think it ended up coming down to a flip. Like they ended up having a Demon Hunter and a Death Knight ended up getting them the exact draw they needed, which is just one of those things, to be honest. But anyway, going into this game, I do end up keeping a lot of my 1-drops, and I obviously do have the quest here as well. Going against a Druid in this format, it is important that I am making sure that I'm getting my value down and I'm trying to control their board, because I don't want them to be able to activate the quest, especially before I get my quest activated. They end up getting their quest onto the board. They don't end up doing anything this turn, and ultimately I don't really want them to get a bunch of those minions onto the field as well. So it is quite possible that it was better just playing down the Glacial Shard there to make it so they didn't get the Acorns into their deck yet. Obviously that reduces down the amount of power that they end up having through it. Going into this turn, I do obviously have the Glacial Shard that I'll be able to use, and I did get the buff onto my Flame Imp. Solarium's a relatively decent card to be drawing into, like it's going to be quite strong throughout the game, but I'm just waiting an extra turn just to make sure that I can get some extra value coming from it, because as soon as it ends up being used, it's quite likely that there'll be a card or two that will be not been able to be used, and I won't be able to increase my pool for the quest. I end up just opting an extra turn since I did draw into the Spruker, because with the Spruker it allows you to reduce down the temporary cost, so it means with this playing down the Solarium on the next turn that I more than likely will be able to get the max value coming from it. Unfortunately for them, they do end up getting a Wild Pyromancer here, so it means that they won't be able to easily get a wider board because of the fact that it will AoE a lot of their stuff. They did end up getting quite a strong minion through that life cycle then though, which is good for them, but ultimately I am getting into a position where I am starting to get quite strong. I draw into the Cursed Catacombs here, which is quite good for me. Obviously I don't use that first because I did have the reduction down on the temporary minion, and then I end up just playing down the second the Spruker and then the second Terror, because it means that I'll now be at the point where I'll be able to get all of my minions out for the quest, and then the following turn I'll be able to obviously activate the quest, which will be quite strong. They end up just hitting into my Terror, and then they end up just going face with their hero power and their 4/5, which is fine, like it's not really causing too much of an issue for me. Right now I can trade quite well into what they have, which will be good, and I did end up drawing into the Infested Breath now as well, which will be good because I can get rid of these 2/1s from the board quite easily, especially since the Infested Breath is going to be able to clear a lot of that stuff too. So I end up just using my trading into their minions that are here, and it reduces down the amount of minions that they have onto their board, and they end up taking out my leech because of the fact that it is going to cause some issues towards them, and they take out my Terror here as well. They end up taking out my Terror here as well, which means that I will be able to get the quest online this turn guaranteed, and I end up choosing just to play, it doesn't really matter which one of these I play down, either one would have been okay, but since I had the Cursed Catacombs, I didn't particularly want the 2-drop to hit it, because otherwise I'd be losing an extra card out of my deck, which potentially could be important going into the later turns. I play down the Rift here, and then obviously I get the Activator done for it as well. Some mistakes that I made in previous games to this was that when I played down the quest, I was forgetting to make sure that I had enough space on my board to be able to keep the minions on there, and obviously it meant that I was getting less value coming from that as well. They end up just doing playing down their minions that are here, and with that, like, they are sitting in such a negative sort of position because of the fact that I do now have the quest online, and with them only having 2 cards in their hand, I am sitting really strong with what they could potentially have, because of the fact that, yeah, I do have the Solarium too, and then they end up just opting to concede because it wasn't very likely they were going to win once the quest got online, because it does provide so much value, and being able to have Rush or Charge means they'd clear most of their board. But if you've enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe, and bye for now.